I swear, this book gave me PTSD. You're gonna be able to tell this is gonna be a long video. Hi, it's Celeste here, and today we are going to be doing a book talk, and we are going to be doing a book talk on the book Gemina by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is the second book in the Illuminate files. Actually, the first book is right here. But I am super excited to talk about this. I actually finished this book like almost 2 weeks ago, but I needed time to formulate my thoughts on this book because this book, wow, mind blown. It was so good. Like, there's like arguments about whether this book was better than the first book, and I am going to start off by saying that I believe that this book was better than the first one. And I will elaborate on that a little bit later on in the video about why I feel like that. But it took me a lot longer to read this book than it did for Gemina. And I'm going to we're just going to put something out there. I read this book over the course of 10 days, though I was reading other books while I was reading this book. So really it only took me 6 days to read the book. But I read the first half of this book in 5 days. I read the second half of this book in 1 day. So that is why I'm 100% sure that I got like PTSD from this book, because I literally read half of this book in 1 day, and like so much happened in that half of the book. I swear, I was dying. But basically, this is a companion and a sequel to the first book, Illuminate. It follows the Heimdall station, which the Hypatia in Illuminate was working towards the entire time, and it tells you what's happening on Heimdall. The events that are described in Illuminate and the events that are described in Gemina are actually happening at the same time. So it's a companion book, but it's also a sequel because as you know, Illuminate is a frame story, meaning that it's got the outer story, which is the people who are putting the files together and why they're doing that, which I don't want to like spoil anything if you haven't read the first book. And then you've got the actual story that the files are telling. It's the same thing with Gemina. You've got the frame story, which is the files and who put the files together. And the frame story actually takes place about 5 minutes after the frame story in Illuminate does. I don't know if it makes any sense, but the actual like story details that are being told take place at the same time as the Illuminate details do. It introduces new characters. We have our two main characters, Hannah Donnelly and Nick Malakov, and then we've also got Ella Malakova, who is our other really good character, and she's really important to the story as well. And then you've got the bad guys who work for Baytech. I've been pronouncing it Baytech. That might not be right. And it's really fun, and it actually does have the characters from Illuminate. They do feature in this story, and they do play a big part in the story, especially more near the end. And it's really cool. It's really cool. I loved it. It was amazing. Literally, there were some times in the beginning where I was kind of wondering whether or not it was like super important to know some of the details. And then as I kind of read, I realized that everything that they tell you is super important to the story. So if you ever feel like they're telling you something that's not important, it is important. I also listened to the audiobook for this, but then I kind of stopped about like 60 or 100 pages in or something like that, because in fact, Hannah Donnelly has a journal, and in her journal she does drawings, and I feel like it's really nice to look at it visually. So if you listen to the audiobook, I would read the book at the same time and get the visual aspect. That would be my recommendation. But it was amazing. I loved it. I give this a 5+ out of 5 stars, and the reason I actually feel like this book was better than Illuminate is because it took me longer to read this book than it did Illuminate. I literally read Illuminate in 1 day. I'm not even joking. I started reading it one night and I finished it the next night. I wasn't even reading it straight. I just literally binge read that book. And it was amazing, but I feel like I didn't make as much connections with the characters as I did in this book, just because I didn't read it for as long. I grew very attached to all of the characters in this book, and my dog is barking. I don't think that I would have been as torn up about this book if I wouldn't have made those connections. All the characters are absolutely amazing. The story is absolutely amazing, and it takes you on this completely wild ride. It takes you for twists and turns that you wouldn't expect, and it was really funny because the 2 books that I read previous to this book actually played a part in the book, but they have nothing to do with the book. Just like aspects from those books happen to show up in this book, and I was absolutely amazed. Like, everything about this book just completely amazed me. It had things that kind of made it mysterious, but also kind of made you wonder what was going on, but also kind of made you curious because it seemed like something that had happened in the first book. And then it does something just like completely amazing. It does hint at everything. Every visual aspect you see in the book is a foreshadow for something that happens later on in the book. Everything they tell you about in the book is kind of a foreshadow for something that happens later on in the book. So really, the first thing I can say is don't trust your instincts in this book. Anything you think is right is not right. Anything you think is wrong is probably wrong or right. You don't know. Like, it's literally uncertain about everything, and that was amazing. I loved this book. I love this book, and it's not just because it has a pretty blue cover, and blue is my favorite color. It's gorgeous. This book is amazing, and I'm so excited to reread this book because I loved it so much. It's really, really big. It's bigger than Illuminae, which also probably contributed to me reading it, but this book, it was amazing. It was amazing. It was amazing. It had action. It had the perfect amount of action. It had the perfect amount of romance. It had the perfect amount of deceit. It had the perfect amount of mystery. It had the perfect amount of literally like some gruesome stuff. It had the perfect amount of humor. It was perfect. It was amazing. I loved this book. I found myself laughing so many times. I was listening to the audiobook while I was volunteering at the library, and I swear I was just smiling the entire time, and people were probably thinking I was completely insane because I was trying not to laugh. It's amazing. It was amazing. It was so good. And I love the new aspect they put in, which was the drawings and stuff like that. I loved the characters, and I loved the people that they were. I even kind of liked the villains in the story a little bit. I found that really interesting. I loved the way that they made everything come together. It's really funny, though, because it just, like, reading this book and, like, watching some TV shows and stuff like that, I kind of realized that authors kind of just test things in the beginning, and then they just throw you for, like, a whirlwind. So, for instance, Illuminae was amazing, and it had some really interesting aspects to it, but they were just testing the waters. In Gemina, they literally throw you into that water, because they're like, oh, they like this is okay. And I feel like the only complaint that people would have is that they put too much into the story, and I don't think that they did. I personally don't think that they did, but I have seen people say that they might have put a little bit too much into the story. Everything they did went together so nicely. It flowed so nicely. It was amazing. It was amazing. You guys need to read this series. If you haven't even read the first one, I don't know what you're doing. Go read it. It's amazing. The Illuminae Files. I love this. I love this. I love it. I love it. I love it. Praise to these books. They're one of my favorite series. Right after like Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, and stuff like that. They're right up there. They're pretty far up there. And The Diviners. I love The Diviners. That was a really good book. But they're up there, and they're amazing, and I don't know what you're doing if you haven't read them yet. I love it, and I don't know how many times I can say that I love this book. It was mind-bending. That's one word I could use to describe it. If you guys are looking for some buzzwords, it was mind-bending. It was action-packed. It was funny, hilarious. It had to do with sci-fi. It had to do with space. It had to do with all that kind of stuff. I want to say something, but that's going to be spoiling it because that actually is something that happens at the end. But it does have some other scientific aspects into it that were really, really interesting. I love the way that they structure their stories with the files and stuff like that. I find that really, really creative. I love everything that they did about this book. I love their characters. I love the way that they build their characters. I love their character development. I love everything. I love everything about it. I love, like, the creatures that they make. I love just, like, how they implemented the other characters into the story and how they implemented the frame story really well. Everything about this book was absolutely amazing. But I want to say that that's all that I can say that's, like, spoiler free. I need to have a spoiler section of this video. I'm really, really sorry, but I have to talk about some of the shit that happens in this book because I swear, I'm not joking when I say I got PTSD from this book. I literally, they took me on a whirlwind of a time. They made me fall in love with my characters. Then they took my heart out. They stomped on it. Then they tease me. They give it back to me. And then they stomp on it again. And then they give it back to me. And then they stomp on it again. And it's just like a whirlwind of a time. PTSD. They're trying to kill me. I want to burn the book. I was like mad, but I was also like, I need to keep reading. But something actually happened in the book near the end. I'm not going to tell you guys what, but It was like, well, it was like near the middle. It wasn't really near the end. But I put the book down. And then literally every time I saw the book, I just kind of like shriveled up inside. Like I remember all the good things about it, and then my hand would like start to go towards the book to pick it up, and then I'd remember the thing that happened, and my mind would just go seize. And then I started reading again, and then I was like, I should have just kept reading. I would have been fine. I wouldn't have gone for anything. But then I put the book, and I literally, I'm not joking. I'm like traumatized by this book. But it was like a good traumatized. Like my mind and my heart hurts from this book, but like in a good way. It was so good. I can't. I love these books. I don't even know how to explain them. It puts every single aspect that I love together. It puts gorgeous covers. It puts a new style of writing. It does sci-fi, which has to do with space. It has like action. It has literally basically like all of my buzzwords. Except for like no romance and time travel. I don't think it has time travel. But yeah, no, it's amazing. It has a frame story. It's amazing. Like it's so good. Okay. But yeah, no, I am going to go to the spoiler section. So for those of you who have not read the book yet, you should definitely go read the book. Come back to this video so we can have a little discussion on the things that happened in this book. But goodbye to those of you who are leaving. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and if you do, I'll see you in the next video. And hello to those of you who are staying and talking to me about this book so I can get some stuff off of my chest. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get everything off of my chest. I said this was going to be a long video. I'm really sorry it is. It's like probably gonna be like 20 minutes long. You know, no shame. But yes, okay, so what to talk about first? When they first implemented Aiden into the story, I was like thinking to myself, I was like, is that Aiden? And it had been like 2 months since I had read Illuminate, and I couldn't remember every single detail about Illuminate. I was like, it was like slowly coming back to me, and I was like, is that Aiden or is it not? And I just got super curious. And I remember when they first implemented the, whatever they're called, the weird little like worm things, like the parasites, I was like, why do we need to know this? And then they started to like attack people and they like escaped, and I was like, oh, okay, that would explain a lot. But I shipped literally Hannah and Nick from like the very beginning. Yikes, what? And then they kill Nick. And I was like, the fuck? And then I was like, there's no way he's dead. I was like, there's no way he's dead. There's still like half of the book left. There's no way. There has to be something. What the hell is the rest of the book about? And then they put like fucking the multiverse theory into this book, and my mind was like blown because I was actually reading Dark Matter the day before I read the second half of this book. I finished Dark Matter. My mind hurt from Dark Matter because Dark Matter is a book about the multiverse, and it's like very scientific. It's like a hard sci-fi book, and so they put that in, and literally my mind was like blown. And then they were like, oh, they like crossed over at the exact same time, and oh, your Nick is not dead, because I was wondering, because I was like, because this is what they mentioned, the multiverse, and I was like, okay, so Nick from the other parallel universe is alive, but our Nick is dead, and they can't change that because he's from a different parallel universe. You can't bring him back into this universe without like tearing apart the space-time continuum. But then they're like, oh, he's actually your Nick and he's still alive, and I was just like, what? And then the flower, that was the best thing. They did every single detail of this book so amazing. I'm literally mind blown about this book. It was so good. I literally aspire to be this level of writing that's so amazing. Like they literally implemented everything into each other so well. Like they put every detail in. They made sure we knew about everything that we needed to know about. They teased us with everything. They did all this different kind of stuff. And I don't even know how to I don't even know how to explain it. It was so good. And I'm literally like shell-shocked about this book. And I hope you guys enjoyed this book as much as I did. I'm actually curious to see if you liked Illuminate or Gemina better, for those of you who have read it. And if you have watched to the end of this video, I would really like to hear what your guys' thought on the book were. Make sure you say spoiler in big letters if you're gonna spoil anything about the book, but I'm really curious to hear your guys' thoughts on the book. And if you guys liked Illuminate or Gemina better, and if you're excited for the third and final book of the trilogy to come out. I think it's coming out at the end of this year. I'm super excited. But yeah, so I guess that's all that I can think of. I might be missing something and it'll probably come to me, but that's all that I can think of. But thank you guys so much for sticking around and watching the little book talk about me literally ranting about how much this book wanted me to die and how much I kind of wanted to die in this book. It's been a nice little talk, and I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye! Okay, let's just, I don't know if this goes here necessarily, but I don't really want to move it, so it's gonna, I could put it on this side, couldn't we? Does that look better? No. I don't think it goes there. I just don't think it goes there. Okay.